This is a special emergency edition of PFTPM. Not that it's a significant emergency. It's something that was already known as of 6 days ago. It's just nobody noticed it. This is an amazing development to me for a variety of reasons. And let's start with the news, as buried in a long article from Nick Wagner of ESPN.com regarding Brock Purdy. Down near the bottom is a story shared by Purdy that he was told by 49ers coach Kyle Shanahan in the offseason that if healthy, Purdy would be the starting quarterback unless the 49ers could lure Tom Brady to play for the team he grew up rooting for, the team he wanted to play for in 2020, but the 49ers said thank you and no to Tom Brady then, and might have had serious regrets about it because, and I think Shanahan has said this, they thought that he was just too old to be as effective as he had been. 3 years later, they wanted him to supplant the quarterback who had taken them to the NFC Championship game, had gotten injured early, and then ultimately the 49ers lost to the Eagles. I had always thought that if Brady was going to potentially play in 2023, the 49ers were a destination. I had never seen a credible report or any report, credible or otherwise, that the 49ers had tried to get him, that the 49ers wanted him, that the 49ers wanted him instead of Purdy or any of their other options. And this is before the Trey Lance trade. This is while they were pondering whatever else they were going to do. Ultimately, remember, they signed Sam Darnold to be the backup to Brock Purdy, but they wanted Brady. And Brady said no. I remember there was a sense back in the early offseason that if Brady kept playing, it would be somewhere near wherever his kids were, and Las Vegas or San Francisco was just too far away. We still didn't know that the 49ers wanted it. So he had to affirmatively say, even though I believe I can still play and I want to still play, I'm not going to play for the San Francisco 49ers, the team I grew up rooting for. If you haven't heard, if you haven't seen, he was at the game, the catch game from early 1982, the Dwight Clark catch. He grew up big fan of the 49ers. Said no when they finally swung back around with a Super Bowl ready team, with a team that has been knocking on the door in recent years. Great skill position players, great system, great offense, great defense, great everything, great coaching. And he said no. He had mentioned in a New Year's Day post, and I couldn't tell whether it was a joke. Like if it was a joke, it really wasn't funny. I didn't get the punchline. But he mentioned that he had a retirement party in May and they almost had to cancel it because he almost unretired. Ha, ha, ha. Ha, ha, ha. Maybe that was it. Maybe it was the 49ers. Maybe that's when this all happened. You know, they didn't quite know how Brock Purdy was going to heal. And even if he fully healed, they wanted to make Brady the starter. It would have been simple. I mean, what's Purdy going to say? He was the last guy drafted. What's he going to say? No, I want to trade. You sit down for a year, Brady comes in, they try to win a Super Bowl, and then you got Purdy under contract for 2 more years. And he learns from Brady for a year. Nothing wrong with that. So it makes me wonder a couple of things. One thing that makes me wonder is whether or not there will be teams trying to get Brady for 2024. Look, that arm he has is going to last into his 50s. The question is, does he have the mobility to get away from contact that eventually would get him injured? He doesn't need a whole lot of mobility because he knows before the play even starts where the ball is going to go, where the open guy is going to be, and if all else fails, he just gets rid of the ball before he gets hit. We saw that dynamic play out 3 years ago in the NFC Championship when he started throwing balls up for grabs in lieu of taking hits and almost opened the doors for the Packers to come back and win the game. Will somebody want him this year? There still aren't enough bad quarterbacks to go around, let alone enough good quarterbacks to go around. So maybe. And maybe after being out of it for a year, he decides, what the hell? I'll come back. Could it be the 49ers that make another phone call depending upon what happens this weekend against the Lions? I mean, Purdy was a little, not Tom Brady on Saturday night against the Packers. What if Purdy has a bad day against the Lions? What if they go to the Super Bowl and Purdy just doesn't step up to the big stage? And that takes me in another direction too, because there could be other teams that want Brady. And there are a lot of teams out there that have question marks at quarterback. I also wonder what it means for the 49ers next year if Purdy doesn't play at a sufficiently high level in the highest of high stakes games. Would the 49ers consider other options? We've seen what Kyle Shanahan has done with the quarterback position. He's been tormented by the fact that, quarterback guru, he's got his team set at every other position. At quarterback, it can never get fully settled. And maybe he's deciding it's fully settled this year based upon what Brock Purdy has done. He was an MVP candidate right up until Christmas night when the Ravens came in and did to the 49ers what I thought the 49ers were going to do to the Ravens. That's a different story altogether, one I'd like to forget. But up until that moment, Purdy was an MVP candidate. Well, as you get to the high stakes games, if you're not stepping up and playing at a high level, that's going to be a factor for the team to consider as we move forward, because it's not just about winning regular season games. It's about pursuing championships. This is a team that is nearly 30 years removed from its last Super Bowl win. They want to get there. They need to get there. Kirk Cousins is available. And the last time we saw Kirk Cousins start and finish a game this year, he played arguably the best game of his career against the San Francisco 49ers. Cousins is going to hit the market, barring a long-term deal or short-term deal with the Vikings. Unless he re-signs, and the Vikings right now have an exclusive window to negotiate with him, and we know how tampering works, and there may already be some phone calls that are being made through burners or hypothetical conversations, or this is off the record, or it's 5 layers deep, or whatever the case may be. If the 49ers lay an egg on Sunday against the Lions, if Brock Purdy has 3 interceptions like he did, he had 3 against the Vikings, he had 2 against the Vikings. But that was the first time we were like, ugh, whoa, maybe Brock Purdy isn't the next Tom Brady. Could Kirk Cousins be in play for the 49ers? Could they look somewhere else? Could they decide that we need an upgrade? And that's really the core question here. How much is good enough? Is it good enough to say we're content to be the 1 seed and we'll take our chances in the playoffs and maybe it'll eventually work out? Or do you say, look, we have a team that is on the cusp here. We just need to upgrade at one position beyond where we think our current guy is. That wouldn't have even been a conversation point, but for the news that came out last Tuesday. January 16 was the day the article landed. Nobody noticed it. If somebody had noticed it, could have been a question for Purdy at his press conference happened the next day. Could have been a question for Shanahan at his next press conference. Would have created a distraction for the 49ers going into the game against the Packers. Would have been a talking point. That's what astounds me here. And there's 2 explanations. Either Nick Wagner and his editor or editors at ESPN didn't recognize the significance of this bombshell and just failed to highlight it, failed to tweet about it, failed to pass it along to the producers of the various studio shows who could have gotten a lot of mileage out of it last week. Either they just didn't recognize it or they did it on purpose. And I don't want to attribute any improper motives to anyone, but I know that there's a lot of deal making that happens in this world. And if the 49ers didn't want that to become a thing and made loose wink nod promises about future considerations for scoops or whatever, maybe that's why it wasn't a big deal. I don't know. All I know is it should have been a big deal. It wasn't a big deal. And ESPN whiffed on a big opportunity to pump up the ratings for all of their various studio shows, because that would have been a major talking point. It should be going forward as the 49ers get ready for this game against the Lions. How much do they truly believe in Brock Purdy? Because they apparently didn't believe enough before the season to avoid pursuing a quarterback in his mid-40s to whom they previously said no 3 years earlier. It's gonna be a thing this week. It's going to be a question that Purdy gets. It's going to be a question that Shanahan gets. It's going to be a potential distraction as they get ready for the NFC Championship game. Do they really believe in Brock Purdy? Kyle Shanahan's going to be annoyed by the headlines and the talking points. And again, that's why I wonder what went on behind the curtain here to cause ESPN to not make this a huge deal. That's what you do as a media outlet. I root for good stories. It's a great story to have on the record. This isn't sources. This isn't off the record. This isn't person familiar with the situation. This is Brock Purdy on the record telling the story of how Kyle Shanahan said to him, "You're the starter if you're healthy. Unless we can get Tom Brady, we're going to go try to get Tom Brady. Are you okay with that?" And Purdy's reaction was, "Well, yeah, I understand. But, hey, I kind of took you to the NFC Championship game." It lit the fire for him a little bit more. Anyway, that's all I have for today. This is a short emergency edition of PFTPM. I didn't want to let it wait until Tuesday. I had to delve into this a little bit today because it really is fascinating on many levels. The fact that they wanted Brady, the fact that Brady said no, the questions that it creates regarding Brady moving forward, the questions it creates regarding the 49ers moving forward, and this is inside baseball, but this bizarre failure by ESPN to take this thing that would have been the gift that kept on giving all week long and just ignore it. Anyway, that's it for now. Thank you for not ignoring us. We'll see you Tuesday morning for a new edition of PFT Live, unless something else happens today, and I'll be back right here talking about it. Thanks again. Have a great day. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.